Hi everyone, we're back with my first guest, and this is Emily Brawn with Goosehead Insurance. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I always like to start my interviews with telling me a little bit about yourself personally before we get into kind of the business stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So, like she said, my name's Emily. I grew up in Houston. I went to school at Texas A&M University and then ended up working overseas a little bit and ended up back in Houston.
As all of us do.
I know.
We all end up coming back for some reason, Houston draws us back in.
Exactly. There's something about the city just brings us back. So, yeah, now I've spent some time in Houston, and my family lives here, so it's just a great place to be.
Awesome. So some things you might be passionate about, or things that you support, or going on in your life?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, something that I've been involved in for a handful of years now is something called YoungLife. I spend a lot of time with high schoolers and just really pouring into the youth and just focusing on them and their growth. And then another thing I'm really passionate about is ALS awareness. So my father actually has ALS, so I'm really passionate about people just knowing about ALS and getting involved in that cause. So it's been really great to get to be a part of those things, especially in Houston.
And get support and, understanding, because I think a lot of people aren't even aware of it and are kind of they haven't found a lot of cure for it or anything. So it's kind of just the more awareness, the more research, the more stuff that gets out there. It's awesome. So, I've gotten involved through Emily, and another friend of mine that's parent also was recently diagnosed. So it's something that hope all of you guys can get involved with and keep supporting.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess let's get into kind of Goosehead and what you've been doing. I know y'all have done a lot of work, and I love that y'all are like kind of a broker type mindset of your business. So tell me what the difference is between Goosehead and other insurance agents.
Yeah, definitely. So Goosehead Insurance, I'm an insurance broker. So I do personal lines insurance, home, auto in Houston, lots of flood, as most people are familiar with. But yeah, what's different from us than others is we're an independent agency. So we are a broker. I have 30 different companies that I work with to shop the market for my clients. So it's not like I'm just stuck with one option, but I can shop through 30 different that actually allow to save a lot of money and give the proper coverage. And so for me, I really focus on making sure that my clients feel well taken care of and that they have what they need in the case of something going wrong. Because, right, I mean, insurance is not something that you use every day, hopefully, but it is there for the worst case scenario. So I want to make sure that in those times, all of my clients are taken care of as they need to be.
Yeah, because I think it's really important that a lot of people just shop based on just price, and they just look at the price and like, I want to go with the cheapest price and stuff. And like, whoa, I'm like, really look at the coverage, really compare and contrast, all the different things that you're getting. And so being able to do that with Goosehead and like actually look at different, you're not just stuck with one agency or one type of coverage, so you can maybe get a heavier coverage on one aspect of your life than, another aspect of your life that you don't think you need as much protection over.
Of course. So. Yeah, exactly. It is kind of funny too, with the digital age, you see a lot of people just going online. It's a lot easier to just go online, take care of it. But what I'm seeing a lot is people don't understand the coverage, as most people wouldn't. So it's nice to be able to help clients walk through that process and really have a good idea of what exactly they have covered. So.
And I'll tell you, since I've been in real estate, I've found it more and more interesting to actually understand what your coverage is and what you're doing. It's like, it's actually, you know, people are like, oh, insurance is boring or whatever. And it's like, actually, if you actually dig into it and kind of see all the different things that you can get and what kind of is, you know, all the information they have on it and actually what you're covered for and what you're not, you'd be surprised what you're not covered for.
Exactly.
So I always tell people, like, you know, I think most important in picking your agent is allowing yourself to have an agent that has really great customer service that you can call directly and get, you know, pick up the phone and they answer the phone right away, or they can help you or get you to someone on their team that can take care of you right away, as opposed to calling an 800 number and just kind of being a number for the company.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. You're
So
exactly right.
tell me a little bit about like what you think is important when someone's buying a home and what kind of coverage is important.
Yeah, definitely. So I deal with a lot of new home buyers as well as people who have owned a home for, say, you know, 1 to 40 years, whatever the span may be. And so something that I always say to look out for, the easiest to notice are your deductibles. So if you have a higher deductible, it's going to be a cheaper policy, but that also means that in the case of something bad happening, you're going to have to pay more money. So a lot of the times, you know, people might be given a higher deductible without their knowing. So I always recommend having the deductibles lower. And then water coverages are pretty significant. We see things happen like the freeze in Texas, for example, and a lot of people didn't have the proper coverage that they needed for all of their pipes to be covered, for the damage from the pipes to be covered, things like that. And so those are the things that I usually walk my clients through and at least offer them so that they know they have the option.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things during the freeze, you know, floods, you know, different things that happen, catastrophically happen, like in the, you know, and it just makes you more aware of what people do and don't have, or what you need, you know. It kind of, I mean, did the insurance agencies shift when the freeze happened? Did they add more coverage or take away coverage, or did prices change when that happened?
Yeah, good question. So of course, when something like that happens, we will see a bit of a rate increase just because, as you can imagine, the risk has increased and there's more money being paid out for claims. So a lot of the coverages that would have been preventatives that could help for things that were experienced in the freeze, a lot of those have been there since the beginning. I would say, at least for me, I had a lot of new clients calling in saying, you know, my agent had never explained this to me. I want to switch over to you. Will you add these on and help me? And so there was a lot of that I saw, but luckily most of my clients, since I do like to go over it with them, had the coverage. Part of it is I never want to get a call of someone upset and have to tell them that they don't have coverage in the worst situation probably of their year. So, yeah.
I guess that would lead me to another question, like what if someone, you know, is got their policy and everything in midterm, they kind of talk to you and want to switch policies stuff. How does that work?
Yeah, good question. So I deal with this pretty much every day, whether it's home or auto insurance. So in the state of Texas, it's really nice because you can cancel a policy and you're legally required to get a prorated refund. So say you're 6 months into your policy, you're gonna be able to get, you know, ideally half that premium back. And so it really is a simple switch, especially, you know, if I'm saving money, then the prorated refund you'll get would even cover that. So it's pretty simple to switch midterm. Some people think it might, you know, be a hassle or take a long time. It really is just
or affect their coverage.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I see the most is I'm able to a lot of the times bump up coverage, so give better coverage as well as save them money. And so they just have to let their old agent know that they have a new policy, and just like that, they're set up and paying less with better coverage. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question, flood insurance, you know, and I run across this, but I always like the agents to also tell people, insurance agents to tell people, not just your realtor to tell you, that, how important flood insurance is, whether you're in a flood zone or not.
Yeah, that is a big question that I get from a lot of clients. I always advise, once again, getting flood insurance. If you're getting it through FEMA, the max coverage is going to be $572 for the entire year. So if you think about it, over the span of a year, break it up monthly, you're paying more on eating out at a restaurant, which $572 in the long run is going to be nothing compared to what the loss would be if your entire house flooded and you had no coverage. So especially living in Houston or even along the coast or really most places in Texas, it's so questionable at this rate, So I always recommend having it. The irrigation too in the city can be a little bit dicey, so I always suggest getting it. I mean, Harvey is a good example. My parents' neighborhood, most of it had never flooded. Most people were in, a preferred risk flood zone, which is not mandatory, and yet almost the entire neighborhood flooded, partially due to the dam being opened and closed. And so there are things like that you don't expect to happen. And even if your home has never flooded, it didn't even flood in Harvey, there's no telling what could happen. So another reason, I like to go over it with my clients, I never want to get the call that there is rising water. So I like to make sure that they're all set and good to go.
And like right in the middle of it, it's like, okay, there's water in my house. What should I do? And the panic moment hits in, and it's like, am I covered? Am I,
Yes. Exactly.
You don't want to put yourself in that position ever. I mean, it's so simple to just pay, and if you're not in a flood zone, once again, it's like $500, and it's, when in the grand scheme of things, is if you lose your entire house, gets flooded, then
it's pretty devastating. Yeah. I have family that lost most things in the flood, some that had insurance, praise God, some that didn't at all. And so it's not a fun situation. And something too that a lot of people aren't aware of is, of course, we have FEMA, so backed by the government, but we also have private flood options. And so with that, you can actually get replacement cost on your contents, meaning if you lost all of your contents with the normal FEMA coverage, that means that you would get your personal property at a depreciated value, versus if you have replacement cost, it's the difference of, going and shopping at Goodwill versus Nordstrom. So you're gonna want that replacement cost a lot of the times, plus additional living expenses. So if something happened to your home, they'll actually put you up in a hotel or a rent house while your home is being finished. So that's another thing that a lot of my clients like to know about, just because it adds a little bit more coverage.
Cool. So what, about like bundling your home insurance with your auto insurance, is that, that probably, doesn't that lower costs for people a lot of times?
Yeah, a lot of the times it does. I always, when I'm talking with my clients, I run all the quotes. So I like to look at the whole portfolio. That's, home, auto, flood, umbrella. Take a look at all of it, see if we can't save money across the board. So even if it's a new home purchase, a lot of the times, number one, you want the address to match from the auto insurance to your new home. So that's really helpful. And then on the home, there usually is a discount for having it bundled. Now, if you're with a captive carrier, meaning it's just one insurance company, then the autos have to be the exact same insurance company. But being with a broker, one of the perks is I can mix and match. So it can be, one home insurance company with a different auto insurance company, but because they're with the same broker, you can still get that discount. So that's really helpful and usually brings down the rates and allows for better coverage because there's some more flexibility with what you're paying each month or per year.
So I guess explain to people what is an umbrella, policy, and why would they want one or need one?
Exactly. So I find honestly that a lot of clients are unaware of what an umbrella policy is, and so basically it is an additional $1 to $5 million worth of coverage that lies over your home and your auto insurance. So if you envision a little house and a car and an actual umbrella that you would use out in the rain, it does the same thing for protection. So it lies over the two of those, and I always say you don't have to be a millionaire to be sued like one. And so basically what the umbrella policy is there for is if you get into an accident and say you have kids who are maybe less experienced drivers and they hit somebody else and someone wants to come against you and sue you, they can sue you for what your home is worth, your cars, pretty much all of your assets. And so having the additional $1 to $5 million worth of coverage is going to allow you to, have that liability protection. It can even cover you if you are in another country and something happens, or say you own a boat and you get into a boat accident, or, your teenage son takes it out at night and hits an expensive yacht. That would be probably the worst situation, but you wouldn't want to get sued by those people. So
and sometimes even like you think when you have little kids, like you have a play date over at the house and the kid just trips and falls at your house. I mean, it's just something as simple as that, It's not even have to be something like a boat crash or, something big. It's just, so how often do you think people should shop for their insurance?
Yeah, good question. So I usually tell my clients every 3 to 5 years is a good time to take a look at your insurance once again. And so I even have some clients that, at each renewal, they'll want me to shop it just because I do have access to so many companies that for my clients, I want to take that burden off of their chest. So whenever I get a call for that, I'm reshopping it for them to make sure they're in the best place. So that's another thing that is helpful for a lot of the clients that I work with is, with some companies, you're just stuck with one company forever. But with a broker, you're able to have the market shopped every year, every 3-5 years, whatever the case may be. And usually, I would say, 85% of the time, there's going to be a rate that's better, especially when a few years have passed. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Definitely.
Tell them how to get a hold of you and we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. So the best way to get a hold of me is to give me a call or shoot me an email. I am on my phone and with my email a lot of the time, so you can definitely reach me there. And yeah, I'm more than happy to help anybody out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Emily, for coming on the show.
Yes.
Be sure to call Emily if you want to shop your insurance.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be right